Hi folks, welcome to the second video I've recorded today being Thursday, the 3rd of April 2025. Before I go any further with this one, which is basically a preview of Rangers against Hibs at Ibrox on Saturday, which in itself is basically a preview of Rangers against Athletic Club of Bilbao next Thursday, because all my energy, all Rangers energy is pointing towards that massive European quarter-final with Athletic Club a week tonight. I would just like to quickly recap just in relation to the previous video I've posted today, which you can find here on the homepage of the FatEck YouTube social media kind of page type thing. I don't really know how to describe these things, showing my age, but you'll see the title is The Most Beautiful Breakfast, and I spend about 40 minutes of that video talking about Val Kilmer and the role he plays of Chris Shuhairless in Heat. Val Kilmer, who passed away on Tuesday the 1st of April. And I just want to say a wee thank you to Ali Auld and Finlay Cameron, both who individually, without, I don't know if the guys even know each other, but they both sent me, just as Val Kilmer had passed away, they both sent me a Instagram post that Val Kilmer had put up, which was on a kind of film account, a film fan account on Twitter, and they both sent that to me. And that's actually how I found out that Val Kilmer had passed away, and it was the nicest possible way to find out. Obviously, I don't know Val Kilmer; he's not even my favourite actor or anything. I explain all this in the previous pod, the pod that I'm alluding to, just the other one that I posted today. But it was really nice of the guys to send me, because it's a Instagram post that Val Kilmer put up about 8 years ago, and he's talking about his time working on Heat, on the movie Heat, the 1995 Michael Mann movie Heat, which, as you know, if you've watched this pod more than once, I'm obsessed with. I'm pretty much obsessed with. I don't even know if it's my favourite movie, and Val Kilmer isn't my favourite actor. I explain all this in the previous pod, but he's got the best line in that entire film, the line that I think sums up the entire film. But just to say thanks to Ali and to Finlay, cheers lads for sending us that beautiful post by Val Kilmer, which I think he posted about 8 years ago on Instagram, and he's had the throat cancer for years. Obviously, he's dying at 65 years old, far too young still. But it reeks of he's in a dark moment, and he's saying, well, if I die, at least I can take this to the grave with me. And he's talking about his time on the movie Heat, and how he got to kiss Ashley Judd, and how he got to have a laugh with Robert De Niro, how he got to stay at Michael Mann's house, how he'd, a great body moment with Al Pacino on set and stuff like that. It's just stuff like that. It's just it's made it all worthwhile, and it's all relating to Heat, and it was lovely. And thanks very much to the guys for sending that to me. The rest of that video is about the incident or non-incident. It's a discussion of what did happen and what does it mean. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I wasn't at the game, so I don't know. When there was a break in play at Dens Park in the second half on Saturday night for the Muslim players to take on some food and take on some liquid and some dates and some water. They were breaking the fast for Ramadan, and there may have been certainly a hullabaloo on Twitter, but there's a hullabaloo on Twitter about everything about it, and people wanting Rangers fans to be racist. And some Rangers fans have a problem with the players doing that, and they seem to have on social media. But it's just a wee kind of bit of hand wringing moment from me, a further investigation into. I suppose it's a carry on from that stupid banner we had up during the Fenerbahce game in the second half that's got us into hot water with UEFA. So I would like to make it clear that my kind of position, amongst all the other things I discussed for about 20 minutes at the back end of that previous video that I posted today, I think people, really well-meaning people, friends of mine, people that I got on great with, and I think I love it that they're saying, well, we should keep politics away from football, and if we can manage it, we should do that. But I think it's kind of difficult at Rangers when I do actually enjoy it. And I think there's a really good post I saw on Twitter, when I'm kind of spying on Twitter from behind the blue sky barricades during the week. A Rangers supporter just standing up and saying, well, we've got the portrait of the king in the dressing room. We fly the Union flag above Ibrox. We've got the Loving Cup ceremony, which is about toasting the monarch. Armed Services Day, Armed Forces Day at Ibrox. I love it. I think that's a fantastic. I don't even think that should be a political thing. To me, it's just something you should do. We need these people to defend they're well aware, just because you don't have a problem with, if you think that iftar at Ibrox was a beautiful thing and you want to welcome the Muslim community that's in Govan, that's all around Ibrox, because you want to welcome them to Ibrox. I think your racist will tell you, that's you approving of Sharia law, which is an insane, just OTT, utterly extreme reaction. It comes from this whole thing of knowing the price of everything but the value of nothing. There's real grievance politics. People just, if anybody gets any recognition for any kind of problems they might have had from society at large, for their religion, for their sexuality or whatever, the immediate response is, well, what about me? What about the problems I'm having? And that's something people do need to. Everybody should have. There's a lot of people just now, and I think it's a result of austerity measures by the previous government. I've certainly feel really disenfranchised, and I think they think if they're white from a Christian ethnicity, they're British. There's this idea that they don't get any attention. Well, the idea is you shouldn't need as much attention because there is a certain privilege in that. You might not feel it on a day-to-day basis. But imagine being in your own situation that's terrible as it is, and also people being racist or homophobic or whatever towards you as well. That's the basic point there. The reason as I was saying in that video, I think it's a kind of floating thing. You don't want to be too kind of strict in how you draw up, too literal in how you define what your club is, because it leaves you open to being mocked when your club doesn't live up to the idea you have for it, and also ends up making things a bit cultish, and cults never end well. It also makes it very easy for factionalism, for supporters to fall out with each other. It makes us ripe for exploitation by the kind of just egregious venal actors that we see hovering around right-wing politics these days. I think, for example, as looking after that, seeing the king as our monarch at Ibrox, for me, I feel as if we see what's happening in the United States, where the Republican Party can continually come in and call itself the American Party, the grand old party. They put themselves forward as being the one to be a little bit more pro-America. If there's somebody outside that as a monarch, who can take on all the patriotism, because that's always going to be there. Any country in the world, there's always going to be patriotism, good or bad, whatever you think of patriotism. But it's nice that somebody else can be it. And the king wasn't always that way in the past with the royal family, but it's certainly developed over the centuries. The king can now just be a kind of almost harmless paragon of Britishness, whatever the hell that is. But I think we have an idea of what we think it is when we're at Ibrox, when we're at Rangers, supporting Rangers. So I'm not saying we should keep politics out of football. I'm not saying we shouldn't love the things that we love about Rangers, but it should be lovable things that we love about Rangers, if you know what I mean. We should be all-inclusive. And yeah, I'm not blindly all-inclusive. No, it's funny, every time you try to talk about this or try to leave on a positive note about the political character of our support, you can hear, because we're all well versed now in the memes that hit social media. Oh well, you want to welcome all sorts. Well, what about murderers? And I don't mean that. I just within reason. Everything is within reason. So yeah, let's stop talking about that and stop worrying about the nature of our support when we know that the vast majority of Rangers supporters just want our teddy bears to do the business. Also want to say a big shout out to Gary Burnett and the Bangkok Bears, the sportsman bar over there. A bit worried with everything that was happening. Devastating earthquakes in that region the other day, but Gary is okay, and as are most of the Bangkok Bears. But a shout out to them. Must be a terrible time what they were going through over there. Myself and Gary having a bit of a sick joke on Saturday night about the game against Dundee just being par for the course. At least his heart rate would be up, be able to cope with what was happening at Dens Park the other night. So glad he got through that, as well as the natural disasters that he was having to cope with earlier in the week. This is your FATEC. Rangers are conceding an average of 2 goals per game in Barry Ferguson's interimship. And that is bang on the average. It's exactly 2 goals, not 2.1 or 1.99 goals. It's 2 goals a game. It's only been the sample size is only 6 games, but there was only one match in which he hadn't conceded 2 goals, and that, funnily enough, was away to Fenerbahce and Jose Mourinho in Istanbul, of all places, where we only conceded 1 goal. But we just kept conceding 2 and the rest of them, to the point where you thought, we're going to have to concede 3. There's going to have to be a game where we concede 3 goals. And the way this team's playing, they'll probably get away with it and actually win that game. But I don't know if my heart can actually take it. It was Saturday at Dens. They conceded the 2 goals exactly we've conceded in the other 4 games Barry's been in charge of us. 1 goal we conceded in Istanbul. So we had to concede. We had to concede 3 of somebody. So we just be thankful. But the fact that it was a game in which we scored 4 up at Dens Park on Saturday, it's exactly 2 goals a game that we are conceding. Barry has been in charge for an entire calendar month, the month of March. 2024. We'll have a wee look at him as we preview Hibs at Ibrox preview pods, which is really going to be all about Athletic Bilbao, coming to you in association with Gersnet. Gersnet, check it out every Friday live on the Gersnet YouTube channel, 9 p.m. every Sunday live on the Gersnet YouTube channel at 9:30 p.m, the flagship show. It's available across all other platforms, a whole host of other modern platforms that you young trendies will know all about, but it's live on YouTube. Friday at 9, Sunday 9:30. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Drinking Nails and Pissing Rust, or Drinking Rust and Pissing Nails. What one is it? I'm coming to you again. I need your help again, folks. I did that whole thing with Morris White of Earth, Wind and Fire. I've been watching the music documentaries again. It's another music documentary that I've watched. Sometime you get to my age, it could have been 5 years ago, it could have been 15 years ago, it could have been 30 years ago. I don't remember. It's a BBC 4 job, a BBC 2 job. Friday night, I'm sitting having a few cans myself, and it was about Gram Parsons. I did the whole thing with Morris White, where I was asking. He was definitely a documentary. Has somebody else seen this documentary? Morris White for Earth, Wind and Fire. I know he's been dead for about 9 years now, Morris White. But he was talking about how in the early days of the band they get upstaged. Another group was in the same bill as them that totally upstaged Earth, Wind and Fire. Their music wasn't any better. How could it be? Earth, Wind and Fire, absolutely sensational music. But the stagecraft, they had great outfits, they had great dance routines, and the interaction with the audience took them to another level, and that's why Earth, Wind and Fire became this dazzling stage act, as much as their recording history was absolutely dazzling as well. And I couldn't quite work it. Was it the P-Funk? Was it Parliament and Funkadelic, George Clinton and all that? Bootsy Collins. I thought that's who it must be, but I'm not really sure now. I never had it confirmed, and I didn't really know about that. And I also don't know. It's half-assed stories. If it was football, I'd have more of an idea. Because it's music, I just get myself involved. I try to chill out, usually on a Friday night before I go to the game on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I just get myself into more trouble. And I keep thinking about this instance. I've asked this before, I'm sure, on one of my podcasts. It was an old roadie, I think, who had worked with Gram Parsons, who basically, drank and drugged himself to death far too early, 26 or whatever he was. And it's been influenced. The Rolling Stones had been getting into him, getting into his music. And so they go to meet him, and the Rolling Stones were doing that thing that Madonna does, that Bowie does. They're just going to suck the creative life out of him into themselves and then move on. Just using the guy probably, but they were jamming with them and they were getting on, and somebody had warned Gram Parsons. Yeah, he's like, I'm just going to drink. He's like, you're pissed all the time, mate, whatever, or you're doing other stuff, drugs and what have you. Yeah, but I'm hanging out with Keith Richards, and this guy had said to him, yeah, but Keith Richards can, and it was either drink nails and piss rust, or drink rust and piss nails. And I've been trying, I can't remember, I can't find it on YouTube or anything, that video, and I don't want to put in a search engine, drink rust and piss nails, drink nails and piss rust, because I'll get some horrific videos that I really don't want to see. I don't want to have it in my algorithm either. I can't remember what one it was. What do you think? It's obviously something that sounds pure hard, that somebody, a hard drinking guy who can just move on, it doesn't hold him back. Rock and roll lifestyle, Keith Richards. What one is it? I mean, drinking nails, I think it's going to be, you can imagine a jar of nails. Some of us have got a jar of nails. I've got a wee jar of nails, but it's one of the old, would you call the Welks? The kind of, aye, whelks and the wee things in shells, and I've got just a wee jar of nails. But you can imagine a big jar, like a proper jar of nails, like a pint-sized jar of nails, and Keith Richards just knocking that back, and he's pissing it out rust because you get such contempt for how hard a drink that is that he's pissing it. But you can also think he's taking rust. I think that is a bit harder. You get some rust and you drink that and you piss it out in nails. You've actually turned it into painful either way. When you think about it for any man, woman, whatever. But I can't work out what it is. But the idea is Gram Parsons dead at 26, 27 because he couldn't keep up with Keith Richards. But Keith Richards kept going. He can handle the drink. He can handle the drugs. He keeps going. Ah, no, it's only rock and roll, but I like it. Yeah. But his face tells the story. His face is the price that he pays for that. And obviously, he's an octogenarian or something. Keith Richards says, I don't mind if I look like that. If I get to that age, I'd be pretty chuffed. But you can see that the fact he's looked about 70 years old since he was 40 is the price that he's paying, the price his body is paying for being able to take on all that drink and keep producing phenomenal music. It comes out somewhere, and I feel as if the Rangers support, we are the most beautiful support in the world, obviously. Myself, especially, the most physically gorgeous, attractive, almost androgynous support in the world of football. And yet, I feel as if this season we're all looking like Keith Richards because what Rangers have been doing is they've been getting the result. No, we keep going, but my fucking God, we are drinking nails and pissing out. It's hard. It's taking it out in our faces. And I just wanted to do a quick clean up, if you like, a quick mop up on what happened at Dens Park. And what did happen at Dens Park? I did the post-match reaction pod. It took me an hour and a half to explain what I thought had happened there, and it was heavy duty. It was very, very exciting if you're a neutral. But as I was saying on that podcast, nobody's a neutral. It was heart attack stuff. But the main thing is we got the 3 points. But it's become a bit like that. Barry just keeps conceding 2 goals to everybody. The game against Fenerbahce, I'll take that all the time. I don't care how tense it's going to be to start winning at that stage of Europe against that level of opponent. The penalty shootout, seeing a 2-goal lead for the first leg disappear in front of our eyes at Ibrox. Slowly goes to extra time. The next goal could kill you if there's another one, but it didn't happen. We go through in penalty. It's 2-0 down to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, a venue where things have been terrible for us since we come back into the top flight, basically. Even before then, basically since Walter won 5-1 there in his last game as a football manager. Walter Smith won the title there. We're winning 5-1 at Rugby Park. Ali, I think, get beat the following season. We get beat at Rugby Park when the grass was still there, and then we went down to the lower leagues and coming back up since then. It's always been a nightmare venue, Rugby Park. So going 2-0 down there, you're thinking Barry's tenure is going to be a disaster. He takes off Clinton and Ciala. We score 4 goals going on 6. It just became a canter after that. In that game, you thought, oh no, Barry's turned it round. He diagnosed the problem straight away in a way that Philip Clement wouldn't have. This is going to be plain sailing. We go 2 goals down at Ibrox to Motherwell in his first home game. Pull a goal back, have a goal disallowed for offside or a foul or something like that, but we don't win the game. We get beat. We don't even get a point. We get beat, so it's pretty bad. And then what was it after that? After that, we won 3-1 in Fenerbahce, 3-1 in Kadıköy in Istanbul. That was a kind of outlier, and we've got we get beat 2-0 at Ibrox. We've conceded 2 straight goals again to get beat 2-0 by Fenerbahce at Ibrox. We go through in penalties. We go to Parkhead. We're 2-0 up in that one. But Celtic scored 2. We concede 2 consecutive goals in a game again. And we score the last minute winner, and it's all, this team doesn't wilt the way they would have Clement would, and this is what Barry's left saying. He's left saying this in his post-match reactions, his post-match interviews on Saturday night after we go 2-0 down and 3-1 down. It is twice we're 2 goals down, and we still come back, and we still win the game. It's certainly exciting. It's certainly displaying a lot of character. But my God, it is. I think we would like a nice boring win. It's too early to talk about Athletic Bilbao. No, I will not. I will not do it. Did you get the? It's been 86 pound, 85 pound, I think. Come out my account. I've not been at a football match since I was at the Scotland game against Greece at Hampden. But I've not been to Ibrox since the second leg against Fenerbahce. I don't do away games really. So I've not been any football, and yet I've had the £49 for my Athletic Bilbao ticket coming out of my account. I thought it was going to be £40 for my jers. Turns out it was only 36 come off. Is it not my jers? Am I getting a discount? An extra? I thought it was £50 if you weren't a season ticket holder and this was your first time getting my jers. I was getting a discount taking it down to £40. Is it something else? Are they assuming I'm a pensioner by the look of me? I don't know. Is it something else has come off my account and I've not had my jers taken off me? I'm not going to get a ticket into the ground next season, because we want a ticket into the ground next season, even if the team are garbage. We're going to be rebuilding the rest of Ibrox to get us up to 100,000 capacity. I'm in the main stand. I don't care about you. You can all go somewhere else. I don't care if you don't get a ticket. I'm in the main stand. I don't think we should move to Hampden. Just keep it. Main stand is the only bit that's open, and I'm going to sit every game and just watch. That's just really fascinating. The Copeland getting rebuilt into a 3-tier stand. Oh, the Govan getting rebuilt into a 4-tier stand. The Brumlin getting rebuilt into a 15-tier stand with cages for away fans and a whole lot of standing, safe standing right down the front tier. Now, it's going to be fascinating just watching the ground getting rebuilt by 49ers Enterprises into a 125,000 capacity. I'm really looking forward to that. So it's worth it. It's really funny that I forked out all this money without going to a football match, and then on Saturday I'm going to see us play Hibs, and then I'll not have to put my hand in my pocket to get through the gates anyway, because I've already paid for the season ticket at the beginning of this. It's just strange. Season ticket renewals, 5th of May. Doesn't really stop, does it? Doesn't stop the money, but obviously it's going to be well worth it. We don't want to talk about Athletic Bilbao. We certainly don't want to talk about the 7,650 Bears who registered for the 2,544 tickets that were available for that return leg in Biscaya. I won't talk about the fact that Athletic Club won in Seville. They beat Sevilla the weekend before last, 1-0, and that was them winning in the stadium of all red seats in Spain that hosted our last European final, the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan. This is the club that comes from the stadium that's hosting this European final, the Europa League this season, and it's all red seats. Sevilla, and I saw the highlights of that game. They're wearing the red and black socks, exactly the same as yours. I used to love Seville. I used to love their kit and all that, but I can't know because of what happened to our fans in that stadium. Not the result, just the actual hoping on the terrible treatment. But they've got their red and black, and Athletic Club have got their away kit on, which is all blue. Well, white socks, but a blue top and blue, and it's going to be beautiful seeing Athletic Club at Ibrox next Thursday, because they have to wear their home top. Their change strip, their first change strip, is exactly the same as ours. I don't know what the third strip's all about, but it seems like maybe they'll have to be a kind of, I don't know what's going to happen with the socks. Maybe we'll wear our all blue kit, and they'll get to wear their red and black socks. Athletic Club, it's a beautiful kit they've got. It's always been a really classy red and black with the white stripes colour combination. But that was they won there. They won it. Sevilla and the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan, and then the next game last weekend they drew 0-0 at home with Osasuna. Osasuna, who were their very first match in European competition. Another Basque. There's complications. Navarre, it's kind of different. I know I've got a fella who his local team, a Rangers man, but his local team is Osasuna. That's who he supports. He stays in Spain. There's something slightly different with the guys from Pamplona there, but their very first European match, and I'm really proud of this, was against Rangers at Ibrox. The first match they ever played in Europe was against Rangers at Ibrox, and I was there. We beat them 1-0, get 2-1 in aggregate, but we beat them 1-0 that first leg at Ibrox in the rain. It was Craig Patterson scoring the only goal of the game. I was down the front of the Govan, almost exactly where I was when we drew one each. We also sooner in that the last minute long range equaliser, but one game at a time, Alec. Osasuna, that was 1985-86, and that's the season in where we last conceded 2 goals or more in 5 consecutive league matches. That's just what we did last Saturday night at Dens Park. I won't talk about the fact that the Osasuna drew 0-0 at San Mamés last weekend. I think it was Friday night, and I won't talk about the fact that they're playing Villarreal. They're playing Villarreal a Sunday in La Liga, and it's a 6-pointer. Villarreal are 6 points behind Athletic Club. Athletic Club are 4th. They've got the last automatic qualification for the Champions League spot in La Liga, and Villarreal are in 5th place, but they're 6 points behind with a game in hand. And Athletic Club are going, and thank God it's Sunday. We need some sort of kind of help we can get. The players we've got missing, the squad that Athletic Club have got, they're going there Sunday night, 8 o'clock to the El Madrigal the Ceramica Stadium where I've been watching Rangers in the Champions League. I was at the second leg of the game where Chris Boyd missed a sitter, and Rangers were absolutely magnificent in that entire tie. Or lucky not to go through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League then. But I was at that game, and that was in Europe. And now Athletic Club Bilbao, who's the next club we see in Europe, they're going there on Sunday nights before they come to Ibrox. It's a 6-pointer, and I'm not talking about anything. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just talking about last week, Dessers. You've seen the Cyril Dessers. There's I feel it's a kind of nasty little montage made up by the BBC Scotland. Not that I've got any problems, lingering problems with BBC Scotland, but I feel as if they made a nasty little montage of all Dessers' chances. Cyril Dessers' chances at Dens Park. Was it 12 shots? I think he had 9 of them on target and only one. I mean, he'd one that went in, but he was slightly offside. And that's a criticism of a striker as well. But only one that counted. But boy, did it count, because it was the winner. Neil McCann talking about the bravery of Cyril Dessers today, and I'm glad he did. It was lovely. That pre-match presser by Neil McCann. I could go in detail to the pre-match presser that Neil McCann today. He was put forward. It wasn't Barry Ferguson that did the preview presser for the media today for the Hibs game. It was Neil McCann. I could go through it all, but I'd advise you just stop watching my podcast right now. Stop watching anything and just go and watch that. If you're a Rangers supporter, just go and watch Neil McCann's 21-minute pre-match presser. It's on the Rangers TV YouTube channel, and if you don't watch it on that, you can see it next week on my back where I'll have it tattooed, because it is the staunchest, most invigorating, most, oh my God, let's knock the walls down, I'll fucking take on anybody type of. He's just brilliant, Neil McCann. He just exudes utter ferocious energy, utter staunchness. He's one. I mean, he scored my favourite ever Rangers domestic goal, Neil McCann, on the 2nd of May 1999, the second one he scored that day. It's my favourite ever domestic goal. He's a fantastic pundit. Him and Emma Dodds, I think, almost single-handedly got us through COVID with their presentation of all these Rangers games on Rangers TV that we couldn't get into because the stadium was shut. He's a magnificent dude, but he's obviously in there doing a job that he really wants to do, and he's just chewing up the scenery. He's fantastic. Just not even not getting wound up or anything. It's just, he's buzzing. He's on it. He wants it. He's dying for the challenge. He's enjoying the challenge. He's talking about it, and I love nothing more than when somebody who's employed by Rangers in the management team or a Rangers player, when they're interviewed, they make you go, oh right. Calm down a bit. I was actually a bit scared at times with Neil McCann. He's just giving off such energy that it makes you think, I need to get off my arse here. I'm not doing enough. I am not doing enough to help. You know, if there's any idea that there's a lack of motivation at Rangers, you can see why any players who had kind of lost their way under Philippe Clement are doing enough now where they can't help trying to win the games, even though they're trailing, they're conceding these goals, but they're not giving up in a way they might have done under Philippe Clement. I don't think that was really the case. It was still, we weren't losing games left, right and centre. It was just one game in particular that we lost was totally embarrassing under Clement. But my God, the buzz, the motivation, the focus, the drive, the total enthusiasm, the aggression, and also the intellect, the vocabulary. He come across really well, Neil McCann. He's everything you could possibly want on our management team. It's a fantastic interview. But he was talking about how Cyril Dessers was a really brave player, and they know that he'll keep going, and they're telling him to keep going. They're so glad that he did. He got his reward at the end of that game the other day. I feel as if Cyril Dessers, he just does better when the ball's getting pulled back to him from the wing. Most strikers would, because you've got a defence kind of all at sea if you can get somebody who can hit their byline and and pull the ball back, who can look back and just see who's available. It's a classic scenario that all attacks will try to engineer in a football match. It's a real privilege to have the ball on the byline of the opposition, be able to drag the ball back to an incoming striker. But like the goal he scored against Motherwell, for example, in the League Cup semi-final at Hampden, so that seems to be more of a Cyril Dessers thing. He has that goal against, what I'm trying to say is, I think when he's got time to think about it, when he goes clean through on goal and he's got any time to think about it, he kind of chokes because he's hitting the goal. Was it 9 times, I think, out of those 12 shots? Trevor Carson saved them the other days. He's had a miss as well. He had one of the ones he missed, Dessers, at Dens Park on Saturday night. I think it was a kind of pullback, or was it a corner where he hooks it? But it's actually quite an acrobatic shot. He does well to get it anywhere near the goal. The keeper, Carson, is all at sea. And that's like, yeah, you just need to kind of calibrate that. That's obviously the kind of chance that he likes, that he profits on. The goal against Olympiacos in Piraeus, he had a bit of time to think about that, but he does go through on goal for that one. But it was, we dispossessed Olympiacos high up the field. They were kind of backtracking, and he was doing a bit of a sachet, a bit like he did against Real Betis in Seville. That night, that great night under Clement. He does a bit of a sachet, a bit of a bob and a weave, and he curls it away into the far corner as if he's not too much time to think about it. He's just, Rangers in general with that move are unexpectedly and on goal. Whereas on Saturday, I think one of the things that's been underrated about that performance on Saturday was Igaman's basic telepathy in linking up with Dessers. It was continually embarrassing Dessers. I have to say, it's a moment in time when you realise that Cyril Dessers missed 3 gilt-edged chances before we actually got our goal. Our first goal at Dens Park as we're going 2-0 down. But I don't see them as gilt-edged chances because it's Cyril Dessers with time to think about it. I don't even get excited in him. I don't even get frustrated when he misses them. I just simply don't expect him to score. It's only when play resumes and you see an action replay of what just happened, you're thinking, he should be burying that. He should be absolutely burying it. But the first goal that we score in the game comes from James Tavernier putting the ball to the back post, a delicious ball to the back post area. But Dundee defence, Shaughnessy ends up scooping the ball into his own net because he knows he can't afford to let it go to Dessers, because Dessers in the back post, and he knows Dessers will be there because at that point in the game, although he's had nothing but misses, nothing but saves from Carson, Dessers has let the Dundee defence know that he will be there. He will be in the position. So they have to defend him, and it's we get a striker who puts away half these chances, then that's fine. Cyril Dessers will be a distant memory for us, but he's dragging us there. It sums up where we are as a club, as a squad just now, which hopefully will change massively during the summer. We've got guys who are good enough on their day, so you've only got a whole combination of guys who are good enough on their day. Wins are going to be, either absolutely brilliant or really churned out, and you've got to get that churning out, that ability to churn them out when things aren't going well, and we're certainly doing that just now. I think when Dessers goes clean through and goal, he's got time to think about it. It's not going to go in. The goal against Manchester United at Old Trafford, yes, he turns and he's facing the goal, but the turn that he has is so wonderful. It's such an amazing piece of skill, and when he turns and suddenly the ball is sat in front of him, he's got it there with a magnificent touch around Harry Maguire. He has to hit it first time. He's got no time to think about it. So it's the instant he's facing goal, he has to hit it, and it goes bolt straight diagonally into that bottom corner. One of my favourite goals of my life supporting Rangers. That goal we scored at Old Trafford through Cyril, but he's not a chance to really think about it. He did the same thing. He did it even better with the take and the turn in the first half at Dens Park on Saturday night, but he had a bit of time to think about it. This was proper Dennis Bergkamp against Newcastle, with the ball in from Pires and taking out Albert with that amazing touch and turn, that kind of pivot. One of the greatest goals ever scored in all football, and this was a little kind of a diet version of that against Dundee the other night from Cyril Dessers. But he had so much time and so much space. Then time to face up to the goalkeeper at that point, and he just hits the goalie again. He can't. He doesn't want time to think about it. I think the goal he scored, he's got no choice. He's taken it brilliantly on his chest. It does take a bounce in my post-match reaction. I was insisting it hadn't taken a bounce, but it did. But at the moment he hits it is the moment he has to hit it, because Carson is coming out to shut him down, and he's running out of pitch. But in it goes, and it's the winner, because he just keeps going. You've also got the Jack Butland scenario. I think I'll be really interested in Saturday to see what happens, because as Barry Ferguson keeps saying, he's not actually had a lot of time with the players. I know we had basically 13 days, basically 2 weeks. It was 13 days from the win over Celtic to the match at Dens Park. But so many of those players were away on international duty. They're playing 2 really high-profile, high-intensity games in that time. Or even they're just like Tom Lawrence, not getting a game for Wales, but he's in the squad. He's not getting any game time, but he's having to do the training, having to do the preparation. He's not sitting at home with the feet up, getting a proper rest. and he's not at Ibrox, he's not at Auchenhowie getting the training put into him. But two players who weren't away on international duty were Jack Butland and James Tavernier. Tav has a bit of a mistake. You can see he could have done better. Dundee's first goal, although it's an amazing strike from Simon Murray, but he sets up the first goal in the comeback. Tav, he sets up. He then scores the second goal when we're coming back from 2 goals down, and he sets up the winner. So he's basically 2 assists and scores a goal, Tav, in a game that we won 4-3. He more than did his part, but the other one that's been there all week at Auchenhowie for 2 weeks with Barry Ferguson and the new staff is Jack Butland, and he continues to have problems. I had got a little pet theory where I thought Jack Butland was struggling when John Souttar wasn't in front of him. That wasn't the case. It will be the case next Thursday night, but that wasn't the case on Saturday night past at Dens Park. It could have been the sun. I know that's like an excuse that would be laughable to opposition fans, and I don't think it would one to be used by Jack Butland, but the sun, the way it was setting behind the is it the Bobby Cox stand, the home stand at the home end at Dens Park. There's a strange kick-off time at a strange time of year, a low-hanging sun that just be going a lot better. We only conceded 1 goal when the sun was down, and we conceded 2 when it was up, so I don't know, but that's maybe a pathetic excuse. He looks slow, he looks immobile at times, he looks very unsure when he's making these mistakes. I thought he'd turned a corner with his assist for a winner at Parkhead, and before that his heroics against Fenerbahce, home and away, but particularly in that penalty shootout where he just dominated that penalty shootout. It made it all about him, and he won that tie for us on the night. So you're hoping that's, all the kind of negativity and a lack of confidence has been kicked out of his system, but no, it was a bit of a major error, a massive error for the second goal that Dundee scored against us on Saturday night. I don't know if it's not about John Souttar, it's just he has had an ever-changing defence in front of him. In Balogun and Proper, we have centre-halves who don't last the entire game, who are either getting ragdolled against St Mirren the way Proper was, or they keep breaking down in the League Cup final, or like Balogun did, or at Old Trafford like Balogun did, at St Mirren, at Paisley and Boxing Day, which meant Proper had to come on, and for St Mirren are licking their lips at the prospect of him coming on. We just don't have a central defence that's lasted consistently through a whole game. And then we're changing the actual shape of the defence during games now. I know that wasn't the case when he made his mistake on Saturday. It was just the 3 centre-halves, which you should be used to playing with now, Jack Butland. But we then in the second half, we go to a flat back 4, which is just indicative of the permanent changing of the defence in front of him. So that's maybe affecting his. I don't instinctively feel that it's time to put Liam Kelly in goals, but I don't know how many more bad mistakes we can accept from Jack Butland before it is time to put Liam Kelly in goals. So we've got. This is Barry, as I say, was it 24th of February officially took over as Rangers interim manager. We're now into the 3rd of April, so he's had the whole of the month of March, an entire calendar month as Rangers manager, and I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it at all. I don't see enough to call it yet. I'm just enjoying it. It is intense. It is exciting. It's given me the Keith Richards face because it's on the stresses and strains of it. But my God, it's certainly rock and roll. Beating Celtic at Parkhead was something we needed in our veins, better than anything that Keith Richards had put in his veins over the years. And the win over Fenerbahce, eliminating Fenerbahce, I don't care how we did it. We should be scared of Athletic Bilbao, says Jose Mourinho. Well, and he said he exemplified that by they beat us 2-0 at home. Athletic Bilbao beat us 2-0 at home. Fenerbahce, well, we beat you 3-1 at him, Jose. So I think we're going out. I think I'm just trying to avoid a hammering of Athletic Club. I can't see how we're possibly going to progress in this game. This is a step up in quality, all jokes aside. And I just don't know how we're going to manage to get past this club. I should have done this pod yesterday. Yesterday was the 2nd of April. You might have noticed that. This is the 3rd today. So if you work it back, it was the 2nd of April yesterday. And it's 2nd of April 1977. I'm going to mention it again. You see it behind me, the programme for Rangers against Hibernian. 2nd April 1977, the first match I ever went to, my first senior football match. I sat in the centenary stand. It was such a small crowd that my auntie and uncle could point out my cousins, my older cousins. They were on the Celtic end. No supporting Hibs, just Rangers supporters getting the cheap bit. And we could wave to each other because it was such a. It was like 10,000. I've seen it reported as. I've also seen it done as 11,500 somewhere. The crowd at that game were already out the league race. We're in the Scottish Cup final, which we would lose to Celtic. It's in between the two trebles. The Rangers won it under Jock Wallace, 76 and 78, so I get to go to my first game of the season in between that when we won Hee Haw. You can see in the front of the programme there, that must be the programme that season. Must have started off with the 3 domestic trophies. It's funny because we'd won the lot, but the League Cup's already away. Aberdeen beat Celtic after extra time in the final, thank God, or else it'd been a Celtic treble. But I think Aberdeen had utterly stuffed us in the League Cup as well that season. They put us out, but it's the Glasgow Cup we've got in there filling that bit for the printers. The Scottish Cup, the Scottish Cup final would come after the league season was over, so it would remain there. I don't know if they put the reserve team trophy in the later editions of the programme, the home programme that season. But Derek Parlane scored the first. Rangers won 2-1 on the day, and Derek Parlane scored the first Rangers goal I ever saw, and Derek Parlane still looks younger now than I do, which just shows you how the two of us have lived our life. Derek Johnson scoring the next goal. I saw John Gregg, I saw Sandy Jardine. It's fantastic. I remember it's 48 years ago. We're playing. It's significant that we've got Hibs. For me, I mean, we always play Hibs, but it's significant that we've got them on Saturday. Was that 5th of April, and 2nd of April is my 48th anniversary. If you're taking the moment you go to your first Rangers game as the moment you officially become a Rangers supporter, then it's 48 years yesterday that I've been supporting Rangers. And we were a goal down. Hibs scored first. So I was looking this up. I've looked it up before, but I keep forgetting. But I'm going to try and remember for the rest of my life. We'd drawn the 3 previous games with Hibs that season, and this was the only one that was an actual winner, and it was us. But we went a goal down to a goal by a chap called Bobby Smith. It's an unfortunate name, Bobby Smith being the name of the Tottenham's. I think it's still Tottenham's 3rd all-time top scorer after Harry Kane and Jimmy Greaves. This is the guy who deliberately broke Eric Caldo's leg. A scumbag as far as I'm concerned. Never saw him playing, but I've seen the footage. He deliberately broke Eric Caldo's leg for Scotland against England at Wembley in the 60s. Bobby Smith obviously playing for England, and said he was going to break somebody's leg in the tunnel to Dennis Law before the game kicked off, and he deliberately breaks Eric Caldo's leg. It's horrendous. Almost broke his own leg in the process, but he gets to come back onto the park. But Scotland beat them anyway. Jim Baxter doing the business. It was... This guy is a different Bobby Smith altogether. Born in Dalkeith, I think, and he goes to Leicester City because he scored a stonker of a goal for Hibs against us at Easter Road earlier that season, the first meeting in the league that season. And it was such a good goal that Jock Wallace was like, that guy, we should maybe try and sign him. But it's not until after Jock Wallace leaves at the end of the following season, when he surprisingly leaves Rangers and he goes to Leicester City, that's when he signs Bobby Smith of Dalkeith, total Hibby, and he makes his debut against Oldham Athletic, and I think it's in the 2nd division under Jock Wallace, for Jock Wallace's Leicester, and the other player making his debut for Leicester that night is an 18-year-old Gary Lineker, so it's quite a thing. So I played for Jock Wallace's Leicester City, did Bobby Smith. That's the Leicester City team that remember they beat Liverpool for the first time. Liverpool hadn't lost at home for like 60 odd games or something, that magnificent Liverpool team of the late 70s and up to the mid 80s, into the 90s really. What an era that was for Liverpool. But he scored. He didn't score in that game, but he played when Leicester beat them home and away. Liverpool beat Liverpool home and away that season, but they still get relegated. That's the guy that scored the goal in the first game. So he died when he was 56-year-old. He was in Tranent, I think it's Musselburgh. He stayed in Musselburgh. He's a pub. Was it a pub in Tranent or a pub in Dalkeith? That kind of part of the world anyway. But he died when he was 56-year-old, and I will be 56-year-old this year. And yesterday, 2nd of April 1969, the year I was born, 2nd April 1969, Rangers played the second leg of their European quarter-final against Athletic Club of Bilbao. In Bilbao, in San Mamés, 1968-69 First Cup, we played Athletic Club. It's basically this competition. This is the forerunner of the UEFA Cup, which became this competition, and we played Athletic Club Bilbao in the quarter-final at the First Cup, the only other time we've met them in European competition. And yeah, we come through that one. We won the first leg, that had been in March. Won the first leg by 4-1. We were 2-0 up, and they pulled a goal back just early, just in the first half, and it took Rangers until late on. Alec Ferguson scored for us. Alec Ferguson was playing that day. I think who else scored? I've got it down here somewhere. I've got a wee book here. Athletic Club Bilbao, Orjan Persson, he scored. Colin Steen. Andy Penman. Alec Ferguson scored after 7 minutes. Andy Penman after 27 minutes. Athletic Club Bilbao pulled one back 2 minutes later, though, and then Orjan Persson come on as a sub for Alec Ferguson with 17 minutes to go. He scores one, then a minute later he sets one up for Colin Steen. Steen having set him up. There was a mere 60,000 at that game that night. But the guy who scored the goal for Athletic Club that night was Javier Clemente. Javier Clemente, who famously went on to become the Athletic Club manager when they won the league, when they won La Liga twice in a row in 1983, 1984. Real Sociedad winning it in 1985, so there's a little bit of Basque dominance. They were the kind of new firm, if you like. You know, Aberdeen won the league in 1980, 84 and 85. Dundee United won it in 1983. They were the champions of Scotland at that point in time. So I think it was happening. I think Hellas Verona won Serie A in 1985, didn't they? This is something to look into. But it was a little break from the norm in our league and in La Liga. The Basque clubs, the two big Basque clubs doing the business, but Javier Clemente was the Athletic Club manager at that point in time. Javier Clemente was also coincidentally the manager of Spain at the 94 World Cup, 98 World Cup, but at Euro 96, where I saw them twice, that Spain team, at Ellen Road, Leeds. Parag Marat, 49ers Enterprises. I find that a bit of a coincidence. Javier Clemente also became Espanyol manager. He was the guy who'd been manager of Athletic Bilbao or Athletic Club more than anybody else, Javier Clemente. But he was also Espanyol manager, and the guy who would supersede him as the current Athletic Club manager, Ernesto Valverde. Sorry, I lost his name for a second there. Ernesto Valverde, he's now the guy he's back for his second term as Athletic Club manager. He is the longest serving manager, taken over from his old gaffer, who was his old gaffer at Espanyol. Valverde playing for Espanyol in the first leg of the 1988 UEFA Cup final, where there was a home and away basis still in those days. They beat Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 at the Sarria in Spain. Sarria, Riazor, El Madrigal, the proper names, El Sadar, proper names, the Spanish grounds, Mestalla. But Sarria is long gone now, where Italy famously beat Brazil 3-2 during the 1982 World Cup, a game that should have been played in the new camp because of the capacity, but it was much more memorable for being played in the smaller ground. Anyway, Ernesto Valverde played in that game with Espanyol in their first ever European final, beat Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 at home in the first leg, and then lost 3-0 and lost the final on penalties in Leverkusen in the second leg, but Valverde didn't play in that game. So that was Javier Clemente. Ernesto Valverde was the Espanyol manager when Espanyol in their second European final, again the UEFA Cup, again they lose it on penalties to Sevilla at Hampden in 2007, and I was there. I was at that one. You know, just like I was in El Madrigal. There's some sort of link going on here. There's some sort of magic. There'll need to be something manic if we're going to beat them. Javier Clemente, yeah, he played for Athletic Club. He scored against us that night at Ibrox. John Gregg missed a penalty in the second half, but we eventually won 4-1. And although games that were tied were decided in the toss of a coin still at that point in some competitions in Europe, away goals also counted. So we go over to San Mamés, the original San Mamés, for the second leg, and we are 1-0 down after 10 minutes the first half, 2-0 down after 10 minutes the second half, and we're struggling. One more goal and we're out on away goals. Away goals is brought in the event of a tie. Still at that point in time, we're going out in away goals if they get one more goal. Willie Johnston and one of the Athletic Club players get sent off for a bit of fisticuffs towards the end, but we survive by the single goal. And I was reading, it's Ken Gallagher's the old playing for Rangers, and I've got the photo. That's John Gregg missing the penalty at Ibrox against Athletic Club. But I was reading this, just reading over it. I've had this, I must be a relation, a cousin, uncle, auntie that gave me this book back in the day. No, I wasn't. Well, I was just about to be born. I think Rangers played Dundalk that season. We beat Vojvodina Novi Sad, an amazing club, an amazingly powerful club, Yugoslavia, then Serbia now. We beat them in the first round, then it was DWS Amsterdam, I think we beat in the second round. Dundalk, third round, and then it was Athletic Club in the quarter final. In Dundalk, when we beat them, I think it was October 1968. The second leg was played, and I was born July 69. I feel as if that might be when I was conceived. Rangers thrashing the Irish, and I'm kind of conceived a Protestant father and a Catholic mother. It's not the kind of thing you ask them about, but that's a weird time. Right about that time. That's European time. In that season, Celtic won the treble and humped Rangers 4-0 in the Scottish Cup final. So it wasn't a memorable season. It wasn't a very good sign. Again, I like the jinx. That's the season I was born in the summer, but that's what the state of play was. And when we beat Athletic Club over there, now who scored the goals over there? No, it wasn't any Rangers players. See, Willie Johnson got sent off. But we beat them over there and we progressed. This was the tie that decided Rangers to start taking chartered flights to European games, because we're just going like commercial, normal commercial flights. We're kind of late getting there, getting to Bilbao, and then we were even later getting back to Glasgow. We didn't get back until the early hours of the Friday morning, and we're playing Dundee United at Tannadice on the Saturday. They beat us, and that meant Celtic had won the league. So it didn't have great memories. It didn't have great memories for Rangers at the time. But Ken Gallagher, playing for Rangers here, is talking about the fact that it was a real struggle when Spain's kind of embarrassed by people take any method to beat Athletic Bilbao this season. But you wouldn't be turning your nose up at that just now. But he's saying still, I mean, European football, European competition, Rangers have been playing in it for 14 years now, and they still haven't managed to score a single goal in Spain. You know, anytime the Cup Winners' Cup, European Cup or Fairs Cup, still haven't scored in Spain. It's really embarrassing. Well, a few years later, about 3 years later, they'd score 3 goals in Spain. I think Colin Steen get one of them, Willie Johnson get 2, and a mere 51, 52 years later, we'd score another 3 goals in Spain and finally beat Spanish opposition in Spain. So, Ken, there was a long way to go, mate, I'm afraid, before we did anything totally memorable in Spain. And I think looking at the team that played for Rangers in San Mamés, the original San Mamés, a new stadium they're in now, a new version of San Mamés. San Mamés being the saint who was thrown to the lions, a Christian martyr thrown to the lions by the Romans and yet tamed the lions. That's why Athletic Club are nicknamed the Lions. Los Leones, that's the Spanish, I don't know what it is in Basque. You should learn your Basque before you go over there. The team that we fielded in the original San Mamés back on the 2nd of April 1969. Norrie Martin in goals, Kai Johansson, Wally Matheson, Colin Jackson, Ronnie McCann, John Gregg, Willie Henderson, Andy Penman, Colin Steen, David Smith, Willie Johnson, manager Davy White. Willie Johnson sent off with 10 minutes to go. But you've got 5 players in there, 5 Barcelona Bears in there, and another 4 players who were involved that season, 71-72. I mean, Colin Jackson twisting his ankle in training the night before the final in Barcelona. He played every game up to the final, including triumphing against Bayern Munich and Gerd Müller. And there he is, he misses out in the final because of an ankle twist. Ronnie McCann breaking his leg away to Sporting Club de Portugal. Willie Henderson eventually falling out with Willie Waddle and getting transferred before the final, but essential in that game against Sporting Club. Andy Penman also getting an injury that season, the 71-72 season, in a few years' time from now. But there's 5 of the Barcelona Bears are already in there getting their experience up. And this is an era where Rangers, just a European quarter-final, was just standard, and it's becoming more standard again. But the interesting thing there for me, anyway, is Colin Jackson. It was Bobby Watson who became manager of Motherwell and Airdrie. He's a midfielder at Rangers, like a tough tackling midfielder, and he was supposed to be playing again because Davy White thought the Latins will be really, tippy-tappy, basically. We'll need to watch out for their kind of delicate skills, not realising that the Basque region, they see themselves as being Northern European, and they're famously hardy. They like the tough tackling stuff, they like the discipline stuff. They're basically staunch. So he was supposed to play in this game, but he broke his ankle in training, and it was Colin Jackson that came in to replace him. Now, John Gregg moved into midfield to take over from Bobby Watson, but that let Colin Jackson, John Gregg at that point was playing centre half, so Colin Jackson goes in to centre half. So that's quite a weird one there. We then go into semi-final against Newcastle United, and the crowd at that game was it's 70. I've seen it reported as variously 76,083 and 75,229. That was a game for the first leg at Ibrox. And I've been talking to Albert, who's kind enough to watch a few of the pods and gets in touch every now and then. And I hope you're enjoying yourself in Stockholm, Albert, who's away with the capital of Sweden there. He was at the game and he said he's heard that there was 12,000 Newcastle fans there. I wonder if that's the biggest ever away support. It must be. In the old Ibrox, when it was like the big massive bowl that could hold like 80, 90,000, Newcastle, it was their first season in Europe and they're playing as in a European semi-final. Surely there is photographs in that same Playing for Rangers annual of the game itself, but it's black and white photographs and it's hard to, and everybody's wearing suits, exactly. I think everybody was dressing in black and white as well, Rangers support included, so it's kind of hard to tell who's who. But we drew 0-0 on the night, Andy Penman having a penalty saved by Ian McFall, it's a guys. It's but that crowd, 76,083 or 75,229, whatever it was, is actually the biggest crowd that was in the entire Fairs Cup competition that season. We go out to Newcastle. Celtic went out to, in the quarterfinals of the European Cup that season, to Milan. Dunfermline went out of the semi-finals of the Cup Winners' Cup to Slovan of Bratislava, and we go out in the semi-finals of the Fairs Cup to YI-Man Newcastle. That's the last time Newcastle would want to win the competition. So that's been focusing. Newcastle hadn't won a domestic competition for 70 years before that League Cup, but they'd 70 years. But people will also be telling you they haven't won anything since 1969, because a lot of people, the Fairs Cup, it was run by a FIFA committee headed by Stanley Rouse. So UEFA don't count it, but it was the season the Fairs Cup stopped is this in the following season. It's when the UEFA Cup started. It's a direct replacement as a European club competition. So that was quite a thing for us back in the day. An athletic club going over there and playing at the old San Mames. I think I've been going on and on about the arch, the San Mames arch. I was in the old San Mames. I was on holiday in Bilbao for a week during the summer. I didn't see any football. I've never seen Athletic Club. I can't wait to see them next Thursday night, which means they're probably utterly pompous and I'll never want to see them again. But I went over there on a holiday 2007 and I did the tour, and it was a lovely tour. It's one of only two stadiums, the other being the Parc des Princes. When you go in to the stadium, it's empty, but you can feel the atmosphere. What an atmosphere. Very like Newcastle in that kind of one team city. Everybody absolutely crazy about Athletic Bilbao, and they had the arch, the San Mames arch from Norman Foster, the architect who designed the new Wembley, puts an arch on it. He also designed the Bilbao Underground. My pet theory is that he totally plagiarised the arch at Wembley. It's a different version of the San Mames arch. Anywhere you go in Bilbao, you used to see the old San Mames arch. So, and I thought that's been lost now that they've moved to a new stadium, which I think is built. I think it's overlapping the same site. It's very close by. I've not been in the new stadium, but turns out I was looking up random stuff about football as just for a wee change the other day, and they've moved the arch to their training facility. They're Auchenhowie. They've got lots of pitches and that. It's out of town. But the arch sits, it's off fields. It's even less built up than the area around Auchenhowie. And it's fields for miles around, and they've just got this massive arch that they took off that used to go the length, the breadth of their main stand at St Mames. It's now over the training facility. Like they've got the little stands for the women's team, for various reserve teams. Like we have at Auchenhowie, there's a wee stand up there, one of the pitches at Auchenhowie where sometimes the Rangers women would play out of. Well, they've got the same thing, but just this colossal arch. Only the Wembley arch is bigger, is over it. So it's still there. If you're going over for the second leg, you should get yourself out there. I think it's about 15 miles out of town at the training facility, and go and have a look at the old San Mames arch. That's quite a thing. We've seen this movie before. I'm supposed to talk about Hibs, right? We'll get Hibs at Ibrox. Hibs are on an utterly amazing run. They're unbeaten in 15 straight games, which is the longest 21st century unbeaten run in the top flight of any club that isn't Rangers or Celtic. Non-old firm clubs, this is the longest undefeated run of any of them in the top flight in the 21st century. They started that run in December. They were bottom of the table, and now they're third. I think they're going to beat us 3-2. It's second against thirds. There's a bit more. There's 3 more. There's 18 points between us and Hibs, whereas there's 13 points between us and Celtic. But we went to Celtic Park. There was 16 points in it. We're not going to catch them up. But we went. 2-0 up, then it came 2 weeks. I think it's going to be reversed on Saturday. Hibs are in third. They're not going to catch us in second, but I feel this will be their crowning glory. This will be the high point of their run. David Gray, I'm sure he scored. Did he not score for Hibs to make it 4-0 in that mauling they gave us in the Championship? I think when Kenny McDowell was manager our first season in the Championship, I'm sure he made it 4-0. And of course, slightly more famously, he scored the winner against us in the Scottish Cup final. David Gray, he brought us back from 2-0 up to 2-0 down at Easter Roads in January. Off the back of that 3-0 mauling we gave Celtic at Ibrox, and that was us feet back on the grounds, a 3-each draw in that game. But I feel as if this is going to be their crowning glory. We're going to have our eyes on Athletic Club arriving on Thursday night, and we just keep conceding goals. Barry said he's had a week of properly having the entire team there. Nobody's away on international duty. Apparently Bailey Rice and Václav Černý, more concerningly, are struggling a bit with injury, but they could make it on Saturday. I would like to see them getting a run out just to see that. Well, Václav Černý, I'm not really bothered with Bailey Rice. No harm to the young fella. He did well against Man United at Old Trafford, so we want him on the roster, so to speak. But obviously, most people are concerned with Václav Černý because into that game against Athletic Club, we don't have Diamande, we don't have Suter. They're both suspended, and they are pivotal to everything we can do in Europe. I want to see them. I want to see Václav Černý getting back to fitness. I feel as if we're going to go. Maybe this time we'll go 2-0 up, and Hibs will take us back to 2, or they'll go 2-0 up. But we keep conceding 2 straight goals. That's Barry Ferguson in a situation where if we concede 2 goals again, if we don't concede 2 goals, it's going to be unusual because that's been the situation where league games, and it started before Barry took over that run. You know, we lost 2-0 to St Mirren. It was just Clemont's, the game that got Clement sacked. It was the first time since 1893, 1894, I think it said on the BBC website the day. It was the last time we conceded. We conceded 2 goals or more in 6 consecutive games we're on to now, is it? We've never lost it. 4 games in the trot lost at Ibrox, 4 straight losses at Ibrox. That's the first time we've ever done that, so we could just extend or end that record. I think we'd like to end it with a win and a clean sheet, and maybe score a few goals. That's what we're ideally hoping for. And maybe this is where it's the end of the line for Hibs. But I don't know. I just find funny. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Hibs go 2-0 up early doors. We bring it back to 2 weeks and they beat us 3-2. They do to us what we did to Celtic at Parkhead. I feel as if that's very much on the cards because apart from anything else, we are focused on Thursday. But we could do with something to kind of get our confidence going at the back with the challenge we've got into us. We've seen this movie before. We have seen this movie before. That's a phrase that we've been using all season in a really negative sense. But when it comes to Rangers being a European quarter-final, this is basically that we have seen this movie before. This is the 14th time Rangers have been in a European quarter-final. 56 years ago this week, winning a European quarter-final against Athletic Club Bilbao, the first Rangers game I ever saw all of in Europe, the first European Rangers match I ever watched live, but it was on television, so I wasn't at the game. It was a quarter-final. We drew 1 each on the night with Cologne in the quarter-final of the 78-79 European Cup, and it was delayed to the Thursday night. It was a Thursday night game as well because of the snow on the pitch on the Wednesday. Ibrox in the middle of getting rebuilt, and it shortly will be getting rebuilt as well, I hope, under Parag Maratz and the 49ers Enterprises. But we'd lost 1-0 over in Cologne in the first leg, but that was okay because we'd lost 1-0 to Juventus in the first leg of a tie against them. A fantastic Juventus team, and the Juventus team who essentially had beaten 2 seasons before, had beaten Athletic Club Bilbao in their first European final. The UEFA Cup, they beat them in away goals. They played the second leg at San Mamés, and then as a season and a half later, Rangers were putting that Juventus side out of European competition, and I thought we were going to be. I remember sitting watching it at my gran's. My dad did his dominoes on a Thursday night, and my mum was doing the school cleaning after hours. So my gran was look after us on a Thursday night, and I'm watching it on her telly. It was on the BBC that game, watching Rangers getting put out of Europe at a quarter-final stage. And 9 years later, I'm half pissed at Rangers, watching Rangers in a European quarter-final second leg at Ibrox against Steaua Bucharest. It's just something that we do, Rangers. We get to European quarter-finals. It's becoming more and more common, and I absolutely love it, but I just don't want this one to go so badly wrong that we don't want to think about it. And the thing, I remember us playing Young Boys Bern and 20 Onskade. I think it was the seasons under Jock Wallace, when Jock Wallace was still manager in the 70s, around that period when I went to my first Rangers game 48 years ago. Roughly, we didn't do very well in Europe when Jock Wallace was manager. But I remember my aunt and uncle leaving to go to the games, and I must have been at my grand's at the time. And talking, they were going, they'd only be like teenagers, early 20s, my aunt and uncle at that time. And I remember the names, 20 Onskade, that's really weird. And young boys, I'm a young boy myself. I was only primary school age, but I never saw any footage, I didn't go to the games. And when my dad got me out of my bed to see the highlights of us beating Juventus at Ibrox, he knew the score, obviously, and wanted me to see it on Sports Scene that night. PSV Eindhoven, when we beat them 3-2 in the next round, I didn't see that until Sports Night on the Saturday, sort of the goals for that game. But the game against Cologne was live on the telly, and that's the first time I ever remember watching Rangers in Europe. And it was not in the flesh, that wouldn't happen for another few years, but it was a European quarter-final. This is what we do, and I think I think it's a sign of why there's a bit of worry that maybe we'll become a Leeds United feeder club or something. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Well, assurances have been made, basically in that respect, by Parag Marath generally, speaking in the abstract. But I feel as if there is a worry there. But we would have looked like a big fish in a very small pond. And really, we're just a phenomenon within our own country. We're a kind of curiosity. But Leeds United have been in 5 European finals, and Rangers have been in 5 European finals. Now, Leeds have won 2 of them, both the First Cup, and they were in 3 finals of the First Cup. 1 Cup Winners' Cup final, 1 European Cup final. That was 1975 was their last European final. Rangers, and that was 3 years after Rangers' last European final, for 36 years. But Rangers have subsequently been in 2 European finals. Leeds got to the semi-final of the Champions League. Well, so did we a few years earlier. Semi-final of the Champions League. So I think in terms of our profile, that's why I'm always, number one, why I was basically supporting what the board have been doing all season. Why I couldn't really give the board a hard time over the last few seasons, because it's been obviously been preparing to get us ready to be sold. And also why I'm continually talking about us talking up our European achievements. Rangers fans, even 2022, what's the point of getting to Europa League final if you don't win it? We've got to win the league. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I must be talking to a Celtic fan in disguise. That's why this is the big boys' playground. This is where you get the real reputation. And now the way European competition is expanding, suddenly we're talking about league reconstruction. I'm not going to. But that would help because the European competitions are expanding and they're taking up more and more time in the calendar. We've got a reputation. And although we didn't win the European Cup and we won the Cup Winners' Cup, we didn't get to defend it because of various things that happened. But for us to be a European trophy winner and then to be able to build on that eventually in 2008 and in 2022, we get more European finals. It gets you a cachet. It gets you a certain. You become attractive in a certain way to people like 49ers Enterprises, and we have maintained that record. We're building on it again. It doesn't look like us being in a quarter final is a freak result. It's becoming more and more like the norms. It's our 14th European quarter final. Leeds lost the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1973. The year after we won it, and it was a seriously dodgy Cup Winners' Cup final. The referee was suspended. Latterly, Greek referee, the Italians got to him, as they always did, became a bit violent in the game itself, but Leeds losing 1-0. Don Revie's Leeds United, as always, kind of there or thereabouts. Hard luck stories in the finals, but I think this idea that we're going to be some sort of feeder club, no. We're consistently showing that we're sharks in the ocean of European club competition, and I'm so proud of it. And it makes us the kind of team that should be getting, the kind of club who should be getting more investment. If you're going over to the game in Bilbao, well done, nice one. I am jealous. There's a statue I know outside the new stadium, and it's a statue of a goalkeeper. It looks a bit like Pat Jennings actually, but it's Angel Iribar, a very famous man, still on the go, 80-odd years old, and he was the goalkeeper that night at Ibrox in 1969 for both legs. They'd put out Liverpool that season in the First Cup, had Athletic Bilbao, and Bill Shankly was talking to Davy White, telling him how great a team they were, how dangerous a team they were. He gave him the full dossier on them, and he was talking about their goalkeeper, Iribar. A bit like, Jose Mourinho. Shankly had that reputation in Britain at the time. I know he never won the European Cup, Bill Shankly, but he set Liverpool's standard. They won the UEFA Cup, their first European trophy, got them to the Cup Winners' Cup final, their first European final. So he kind of set the standard that Bob Paisley was able to build on. And he was talking to Davy White the same way, Jose Mourinho was telling our media, you got to watch out for Athletic Club. Same thing was happening 56 years ago. And he pointed out that their goalkeeper was brilliant. Angel Iribar was the goalkeeper for Spain when they won Euro 64. I'm talking about in the 80s how the two biggest of the Basque clubs dominated La Liga. I went to see Spain, the biggest crowd I've ever been at a game in Scotland. It was when Scotland beat Spain 3-1 in it was a 1984 match qualifiers for the 86 World Cup. Maurice Johnson getting 2 goals. Ken Dalglish getting his last goal for Scotland, absolute belter. It's Spain, their goal that night was scored by Andoni Goicoechea, who's the butcher of Bilbao. He scored. Let's go Goicoechea, the Argentinian goalkeeper, Andoni Goicoechea. He's just Goicoechea, I think. He scored their goal to total silence. The butcher of Bilbao, the guy that broke Maradona's leg when Maradona was playing for Barcelona, but their goalkeeper was Luis Arconada, the famous goalkeeper of Real Sociedad from San Sebastian. Just as Iribar, the Basque Athletic Bilbao goalkeeper, he was the Spain goalkeeper when they won Euro 64. Their next major final was Euro 84. They lost the final. Arconada letting a free kick go under him, but he was the goalkeeper that night. And then you have Euro 2024. It's a Real Sociedad and a Athletic Bilbao player who scored Spain's 2 goals that night in Berlin when they beat England 2-1 in the final. Nico Williams, who we're going to see at Ibrox next Thursday. Somebody tell me he's suspended. Somebody tell me he's injured, please. And there was, is it Mikel Alatabal? He scored the winning goal, Real Sociedad striker. And they could still be in the competition. Man United putting them out in the last round. Real Sociedad, La Real, seen them a couple of times, seen them at Ibrox. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. The whole thing is there's a big link between the Basque clubs and Spain doing well, as there is with I always see Catalonia as being like the Scotland of Spain, really big and loud on the folk in that region who don't like being Spanish. They're Catalan. You get more chance of not making the mistake of calling Catalan Spanish than you probably have any other autonomous region who doesn't want to be seen as being Spanish in Spain. And I see the Basques as kind of Northern Ireland. The communities within Northern Ireland that don't particularly want to be part of the United Kingdom, because they just bomb folk. They'd ETA the Basque separatist folk who just bombed them. They didn't go about talking about it. They just blew you up if you were Spanish. They wanted to be separate. I'm going to say Galicia as Wales. I'm going to see the Galicians as Welsh. Okay, just throw that in. A bit controversial, but Angel Iribar, his statue's outside the new San Mamés. And in as well as winning Euro 64 with Spain, he is in one of the most famous photographs to do with Basque football clubs. It's him and is it Echevarria, I think, the captain of Real Sociedad. It's like a year after Franco died, and they're now being allowed. The Basques and the Catalans are now more free to express their autonomy, the fact that they hate centralist Spain, they hate Madrid, they are not Castile. And they're carrying, it's Iribar and I think it's Echevarria, the fella's name, the captain of Real Sociedad, are walking onto the pitch carrying one end each. Is it the Icarina? Apologies if I got that wrong, which is the Basque flag, the famous flag. You'll know it's got the Union Jack set up where it's like crisscrosses, going through, but it's red and green and white. Different flag altogether. And that will be the armband. That's the armband that the captain of, I think, Real Sociedad and certainly Athletic Bilbao, the athletic club, they wear the Icarina in their armband. So I'm looking forward to little cultural moments like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that next week. But that's a really famous photograph, is Iribar. His statue's outside San Mamés. Maybe he'll be at the game at Ibrox. He's still in the goal in his 80s. Absolute legend of the game. And I want to know if Rangers are going to put the Pichichi that used to be, I don't know if John Gregg did it in 1969 when we went over there. The tradition was that visiting captains, a club visiting San Mamés for the first time, would put down a bouquet of flowers at the bust of Pichichi, who has been behind me all season that we've been in Europe since we've been in the Europa League. I'm hoping maybe we'll do it again. It's been moved to a new stadium. That's a tradition I would like to see Rangers carrying out. Yeah, what else is there to talk about? Not a lot, folks. I'm going to enjoy the game on Saturday as we look forward to an even bigger game, a much bigger game on the following Thursday. There's been talk about league reconstruction this week. I'm not going to talk about it. It's just, and particularly insulting for all sorts of reasons, but also there was talk about suddenly there's going to be Scottish clubs are going to be allowed to miss out the league game, going to delay the league games that come around playoff matches, European playoff matches, playoff to get into the group stage of European competition, and that's fine. But it does. I remember being in a semi-final, and the whole a lot of people not wanting us to get any kind of help in a semi-final of European competition. To represent Scotland in Europe, and 5 years before that was the same situation. I think a club that was representing Scotland in a European semi-final was 2003. It was in the UEFA Cup, and they were having to play a derby match, a big high-pressure derby against their greatest rivals away from home on the Sunday following the second leg of a European semi-final. And their manager was so outraged by that, he thought there's no way that would happen to these rivals. And he actually worried out loud about what would happen, how his team's supporters would react if they lost this derby match, because they'd be so angry being treated like this. And 5 years later, another club in Scotland actually ended up facing the same situation twice as bad. They had to go to their derby rivals away from home, the two of them are going for the league title. They had to go there twice in the space of, I think it's 10 days, round about their UEFA Cup semi-final. So it was getting worse and worse, that situation. And I think there was a lot of talk back then of sporting integrity, and I think a lot of people get so caught up in demanding sporting integrity that it really just summed up the fact they have got fucking no integrity whatsoever when it comes to anything else other than sport. So big Iribar, he was the goalkeeper at Euro 64 for Spain. Javier Clemente was the manager. Euro 96. There's all sorts of connections with Athletic Club Bilbao throughout football in general, and I'm really looking forward to us playing them, hosting them next Thursday night. It's going to be an absolute honour. And on Saturday, we've got the Hibs, who are the very first team, the very first opponents I ever saw Rangers come up against. And a wee shout out to the family of Bobby Smith, the guy who scored the very first goal I ever saw in professional football, and he scored a goal earlier that season. It was so good that Jock Wallace, my first management hero, decided to sign him for Leicester City. Is there anything else to add, folks? No, I don't think there is. I think that's more than covered it. I'm really sorry this podcast has gone on so long. So that's 2 pods of over an hour I've put out today. It's up to you if you want to, if you can put up with this. But we're coming up to holidays for certain people, a couple of weeks off for a lot of folks just now, children and what have you. So if you're involved in that, I hope you enjoy it. But I will talk to you outside Ibrox on Saturday after the training match we've got for our game on Thursday night. Cheers, trips.